On October 25th, 2016, a mother left her home and never came back. 3 weeks later, it was confirmed that she had committed suicide. Her name is Florence Leung. 2 months have now passed since the body of Florence Leung was found. Her husband, Kim Chen, has now posted an article on Facebook. What shocked me the most was that in Mr. Chen's Facebook post, he devoted a significant portion of it to discussing the pressures that women faced to breastfeed. That reminded me of how I felt 3 years ago when I faced the same pressures after Elizabeth was born. And I wanted to take this opportunity to express my solidarity with Mr. Chen and his message to new mothers who are suffering from postpartum depression. Allow me to quote parts of Mr. Chen's Facebook post. "Do not ever feel bad or guilty about not being able to exclusively breastfeed, even though you may feel the pressure to do so based on the posters in maternity wards, brochures in prenatal classes, and teachings at breastfeeding classes." He continues to say, "I also remember the posters on the maternity unit, 'Breast is best,'" end quote. Nutritionally and scientifically, it is impossible to argue against breast is best, but this phrase is shown on a poster or pamphlet in a doctor's office. Often there is no context given. This begs the question, breast is best, but at what cost? In the case of Florence Leung, the pressure to breastfeed was a major factor of her suicide. The posters and pamphlets advocating breastfeeding to soon-to-be mothers or new mothers only ever talk about the wonders of breastfeeding, that it provided the best nutrition for babies, that it is free and supposedly enhances the bond between mother and child. What they don't discuss is how physically uncomfortable it may be, how some mothers cannot express enough milk, some babies simply do not latch on well enough to have a full meal, and how much time it takes in a day and how impractical it can be to spend that amount of time. The negatives of breastfeeding are hardly ever mentioned, and when they are topics that are treated only very superficially. It makes a mother who does not or cannot breastfeed feel like she's not normal and not a good mother. When I was pregnant with Elizabeth, I never bonded with my fetus the way that many mothers say they do. I had a long and very painful labor, and when she finally came out, I didn't even want to hold her. I did start breastfeeding my baby within half an hour of her birth, and she latched on so well that it was very painful for me. I didn't express enough milk, so she was cranky from being hungry all the time. To try to increase production, I nursed her and pumped milk. In any given 24-hour cycle, I would pump every 4 hours, 6 to 12 times a day, 15 to 30 minutes each, so that would already be 3 to 5 hours in a single day, not including the very time-consuming procedure to sterilize the many drinking and pumping bottles and the various pump parts like the hose and the suction funnels. So altogether, that would already be 7 to 10 hours per day spent just on pumping. Then I also breastfed my daughter directly every 4 to 5 hours, and it would sometimes take an hour to feed her because she would fall asleep while eating or she needed to be burped. And I also fed her the milk that I had previously pumped. So all in all, the task of providing her with breast milk would take me 10 to 13 hours of any given day. Is that even a practical way to live? And nursing her absolutely did not enhance my bond between my baby and me. In fact, it did quite the opposite. I resented my baby deeply, and of course I was cranky all the time. But inside, all I felt was an extreme sense of guilt for not enjoying breastfeeding like all the breastfeeding books said I would. My daily worth as a mother was based entirely on a number, and that number was how many ounces of milk I can pump. I'm normally on medication for depression, but since I didn't want to contaminate the milk I was providing to my child, I stopped taking my medication, so I was very emotionally unstable and depressed. What also made me feel like I could never be a good enough mother was the whole idea that one should exclusively breastfeed. Well, in my case, I could not exclusively breastfeed. I was never able to produce enough milk for her because some people simply produce less. And Elizabeth had a very good appetite and drank a lot of milk. more than I can physically produce. So I had to supplement with formula, and I felt so much guilt for not being a perfect mother. My husband clearly saw that something was very wrong with my mental state. He urged me to stop breastfeeding and pumping altogether as soon as possible. Every evening he came home from work, all I can talk about was how much pumping sucked. It was clear that I absolutely did not bond with my daughter, and all my effort was focused on providing her with this magical, all-powerful, nutritious breast milk that was supposed to help her build her immune system and even give her an IQ boost when she was older. My husband said that not bonding with my daughter was more harmful to her than not giving her breast milk. While the logical part of me agrees, I worry about the what-ifs. What if my daughter was less bright and less healthy because I didn't give her breast milk? What if my breastfeeding friends, the community nurse, and my doctor judge me? I felt so much pressure to breastfeed. One day, my husband said he wanted me to stop breastfeeding because, in his words, I don't want to come home to a dead wife. And that brings me back to the tragedy of Florence Leung and her family. Unless you are also a mother bombarded by messages that advocate everything good about breastfeeding, and not doing so is because you as a mother was not trying hard enough, you will probably never understand what that pressure feels like. On Facebook or on Instagram or whatever, what you see of mothers is generally what people expect. Tired but happy women grinning from ear to ear while holding their babies. A pregnant mother gets a lot of attention from family and friends, but once she gives birth, much of the attention goes towards the baby, and rightfully so. But it is easy for a depressed mother to go unnoticed. And even when you do notice, people might still not realize the severity of her depression. My husband did notice, but that is because he already knows of my history with depression. Under a different circumstance, a new mother's postpartum depression could easily slip under everyone's radar. A woman can hide her sadness under a brilliant smile, and it is absolutely no one's fault that she hides it so well. All we can do as friends and family, and as members of society, is our best in keeping our eyes and ears open and asking for help in medical intervention as early as we see signs that a mother is depressed. I just wanted to close with a message to current mothers. Please don't drive yourself crazy over breastfeeding and feel guilty or depressed if you can't breastfeed. First and foremost, your child needs you, and you being depressed or dead is not what your baby needs. Formula feeding is done all over the world and is safe, at least in most countries, and if you are watching this, you are probably in one of those countries. Yes, there is research that says that there is a measurable increase in immunity and even IQ of babies who have been breastfed exclusively. But the increases reported are small, as in a couple of IQ points. And more importantly, a person's intelligence and health over the course of one lifetime is dictated by so many other factors. To the medical community, especially those people dealing with pre- or postnatal care, please do not continue to gloss over the negative aspects of breastfeeding. I know you all mean well, but recognize that promoting breastfeeding by only highlighting the positives can actually hurt some people. Health authorities will say that they always respect a mother's choice, whether she wants to breastfeed or not, but sometimes I feel that is simply not true. 6 months ago, the doctor asked if I breastfed. I said yes, but I could only do it for about 3.5 months. She then told me that longer is better for me and the baby, and that I should have breastfed for a year at least. But my daughter is already almost 4 years old. What is the point of reprimanding me so many years after her birth? It seems like the stigma against mothers who didn't breastfeed or didn't breastfeed for long enough by official standards or did not breastfeed exclusively enough, that stigma lasts far beyond your child's infancy. Finally, I wanted to give my condolences to Mr. Kim Chen and his baby. Of course, I've never met Florence and I don't know her, but her story really hit home, and in a vague way, I feel like I've lost a friend. If she was my friend, I could imagine us sitting together, maybe sipping a coffee, laughing and crying as we share our struggles with breastfeeding and postpartum depression. Right now, I can hope that what you, Florence, have experienced can help raise awareness on postpartum depression and more specifically the mental well-being of mothers who cannot breastfeed. This is an issue that we can no longer sweep under the rug, but should be openly discussed in a non-judgmental way. I hope a tragedy like Florence Leung will never happen again.